married to being right. I'm not married to my advice. I'm married to you being successful. That's all I want, is you being successful. Because when you're successful, it means that I'm doing my job well. That's the way I worked with all of my clients for years now, and it's great.
Today, my guest is Tami Reiss, an expert on influence-driven leadership. She's a keynote speaker, corporate trainer, and CEO of Leader Within, who helps leaders master influence and maximize impact. By providing easy-to-follow tools like the LEAD framework, Map Your Influence Canvas, and the Confident Communicator GPT, she shares her knowledge in accessible ways worldwide. Her latest passion project is a rhyming illustrated book on leadership. Based in Miami, Tami brings the heat. Let's dive in.
Hi! Let's dive in.
Tami, I'm really excited to have you here today. It's already been a fun time just catching up and talking. So where should we start? Let's start with your journey into coaching, right? What were you doing before you got into coaching? Because no one, when they're asked when they're in fifth grade, what do you want to be, thinks, I want to be a coach.
Unless it's like a football coach. I think there are people who are like, I want to be a football coach or a basketball coach, but not an executive coach or a human coach sort of thing. Life coach. But you're absolutely right. And I don't think anyone goes to college for a degree in coaching, though there are lots of certificates you can get later. I think there's a reason for that, though, because we don't want to turn to a coach for advice if we don't think they have experience. So we actually require that people have some sort of experience before they become a coach, because they have to know something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, not much trust there. So the things that I knew about were being a nonprofit fundraiser and event planner. I then spent my career in technology, where I spent the vast majority of it in something called product management, which is the strategic space where you decide what to build next. And I worked my way up different ladders and that stuff. And I had spent half of my career working in-house at companies and half of my career as a consultant. The last job I had was in the more consulting realm. And I was working within a venture capital firm called Insight Partners. And Melissa Perry, who had recently written a book on product, was hired in with her group of consultants, one of which was me, to help their technology portfolio of companies do product better, whatever that meant. And so we created workshops on product operations. We wrote blog posts. We had monthly webinars where different executives within product were showcasing their skills and the things they had done so that other people within the community could learn. But my favorite thing I did was one-on-one coaching with different product executives. And it was really fulfilling to me to help people who were already at the top of their game be even more exceptional. Part of that was that it was shorthand. I would say something very quick to them and I didn't have to explain it because they were already pros. And then they were like, oh, I never saw it from that perspective. And that was really cool. And I became this sounding board for them. And I recognized that there was a real need for specifically product executives to have executive coaches who had product experience, because product management is all about influence without authority. And the majority of executives have a lot more authority in a much more hierarchical place. Their impact is very directional, whereas product still has to convince everyone else to do things all the time. And unfortunately, most chief product officers or VPs of product, their boss is someone without product experience. They are someone with finance experience. They are someone with operational experience. They are someone with sales experience, management experience, rarely product. And you can see actually success of companies based on whether or not the CEO has product experience, but we're not going to get into that right now. What we're going to get into is people need a sounding board.
Yeah.
People need someone to turn to that they can trust, that is going to provide them with valuable advice they couldn't think of themselves or couldn't think of themselves quickly enough. And so while I was doing that for Insight Partners and Melissa, I bought productleadercoach.com. I made a decision that I was having so much fun, but that whenever this chapter was over, the next thing I was going to do was product leadership coaching. And I bought my productleadercoach.com and your product leadership. I don't even know how many variations of productleadercoach.com I own, but yeah, that was my thing. And because of COVID, a lot of things
Yeah.
shifted at the VC firm with Melissa, with the consultancy. And December 2020, it was time to shut that down, to close
Mhm.
that chapter. And so January 2021 started a new one, which was Product Leader Coach. And I got my first client the first month, and it was off to the races for around 4 years. And now I do something
Wow.
different.
So, okay, so much to unpack. One is I found my way into product, and so I love like product design and like all of that. And what you were saying about executives and business, it's really funny because businesses are built around generally some kind of product or service, but then there's like this disconnect when it comes to actually making that thing in the business. So it's so funny. But
Yes, agreed.
your your insight, like your that you saw so far into the future while you were doing that to buy those website domains is amazing, I think, because not a lot of people will be kind of like, maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't, and they'll kind of waffle back and forth, or they won't even think about
That
it
was
at all.
part of me creating the intention. Like, I was like, if I actually buy the website, when this is over, I won't have to think about it. I won't sit there like wavering and shifting back and forth and putting together pros and cons lists. It's like, no,
Yeah,
that's what I'm going to try to do. And what was
yeah,
really amazing was that I'm sure everyone on this call saw this. And if you were not a coach before 2021, I would bet money that the majority of your listeners are people who became a coach, like hung up their shingle between 2021 and 2024, because it was such like a tumultuous time for everybody. And there were a lot of people who all of a sudden were working from home and they said, this is awesome. I don't want to go back to an office. And a lot of people started doing part-time work and coaching work and things like that. And so I think that there was this massive growth in coaching, but I had already had this experience from working with an insight.
mhm,
And beyond that, I had experience with executives, which was rare,
yeah,
and I had experience with product executives, which was even more rare.
yeah.
So,
It's what I've found is there are a lot of people who get into coaching, but they got burned out in the industry and the work that they were doing. So instead of working with the people they know best, they're like, I'm gonna go as far away from that and start working with other types of people. And then they realize it's so hard, then they go back. And so
oh, I
again,
mean,
your insight.
I have product market fit in the product community.
Mhm.
That's for sure. But I also like to deliver value, right? I'm a product person. I like to deliver customer value. And the most value I can deliver, like the best use of every experience that's happened in this brain,
Yeah.
is working with product leaders to help them be better at their craft. My
Mm,
issue with that was that there aren't that many of them, and they rarely have budget for professional development. And
mhm,
beyond that, I found myself doing two things that were
mhm.
really frustrating for me. That I saw patterns. Product
Yeah.
people see patterns. That's what we do. And so there were two patterns I kept seeing. Number one was that when I was giving advice, more than anything, it was interpersonal advice. It was
Mm,
interpersonal advice about how to navigate politics, about how to get someone else on their team to behave the way they wanted to, a cross-functional team, which is influence. It was just doubling down on influence and recognizing that you're now in a different echelon, that the other people around you also know how to influence. And so you need to really be good at it. Because influencing a CEO or influencing a board is a very strategic activity, much more than influencing your designer or your engineer. And so
right.
that was the biggest theme that came out, was that I just was talking a lot about influence over and over again in different capacities, but influence. And then the second thing, and this was really frustrating, was that so much of being an executive is what I call deputizing people on your team,
Mm,
taking your responsibilities and giving someone else ownership of them. Not delegating, where you tell someone to do something, but you actually take a responsibility that's yours and you give it to someone else. You deputize them so they own it now. And people, when I would ask them, who on your team could you deputize? They would pause, because more often than not, they were still in the weeds because there wasn't someone on their team that was capable enough And not that they didn't have the skills in product enough, but they didn't have enough of that cross-functional influence navigating the internal politics skills
Right.
to be the leader of something, to take something across the finish line. And I wanted to change that. So I started doing group coaching in
Yeah.
influence, in leadership, in influence driven leadership, in strategic thinking, in vision creating, because it's all part of influence. And so I still do coaching now, to be clear. I still do coaching with a
Yeah.
select group of clients. I don't do it in the way I used to do it, and I'll explain what I'm doing now. And I also prioritize groups. I prioritize getting in front of a group of 100 or 500 people or 10 people, because it's still a group, so that I can scale my influence. I want everyone to learn these skills. And if it was only people who could pay for one on one coaching, it was limiting to the people who could
Right.
access it. So
Yeah.
that.
I love that because there's so much going on in the world and there are so many skills. And unfortunately, now with the way the world has kind of just grown up in the last 30 years of with technology, social media, and now with AI, there's a lot of these skills that were people just aren't learning. They're not developing, right? And so it's even more necessary to have people teaching these skills because there are more people who don't know. They don't even know they don't know, right?
Well, it's even more than that. AI has potential to make practically any hard skill irrelevant. And like hard skill versus soft skill, not a skill which is hard to master. They will not make skills that are hard to master irrelevant, but a hard skill versus a soft skill, like a technical skill. And that means we should actually be training people in the soft skills because we will become more efficient in all of these other things, but we will still have to work with other people. We will
Yes.
still have to sell things to other people. We will still have to manage other people. We like who are packing the boxes or whatever it is. Like we will still have to think about what is the best step forward? What should we do next? And convince someone else that we're right. And so that's like the modern reason, like today's reason why I feel what I
Yeah.
do and teaching about influence is so important. Because
Mhm.
no matter what changes in the world, this skill is still going to be important. It'll be
Mhm.
important in your work life to get a promotion. It'll be important in your work life to help other people work together on a group project. Because I don't know if you noticed, but everything is a group project. Now AI as a team
Yeah.
member, but still group project.
Yeah.
And also in your personal life, because at some point you're going to want to go on vacation or you're going to want to go to a particular restaurant or you're not going to want to go somewhere. And that is a matter of influencing the other people in your life.
Mhm. 100%.
Yeah.
I love it. There's so much in there. Tammy, I'm really curious as well. There's a couple of things, right? Before we go in there. So you said in the first month when you started coaching, you got your first client. How did you start getting clients?
So that client, and I think the second or third client after her, came from a group called Women in Product. So there is a Facebook group for Women in Product. And I posted in said Facebook group, hi, I am an executive coach, blah, 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 like product
Mm.
leadership coach. And this is what I can help you do. If you're interested, sign up for a free 30-minute call with me.
That was it.
And that was it. And the reason it was so easy to sign though was that my pricing was too low.
How did you
I think
figure
I
out
was
your
charging
pricing was too low?
because it was too easy. Like I signed like my first two inbounds and I was like, I'm good, but I'm not that good. Like that's something's wrong. I was charging, I think like $300 an hour or something, maybe
Okay. 250
an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which was too little.
Okay.
But I
So,
nowadays I don't actually charge very much more than that. But
hmm
I think it took me around a year to get up to $500 an hour.
hmm
And then I went through packaging and year-long programs and six-month programs. And over the course of the 4 years this was like the one thing I focused on, there were so
hmm
many iterations into how I packaged this and priced this and for different levels of people and for people who had different needs, job seekers, because everyone was out of a job, and variety of other things. And so, yeah, I went through a lot of iterations, and the current
yeah.
iteration is a little different.
Okay, so you started with hourly and then you said 6 month and year long, and then you have other packages.
Oh, no, no, that was just the hourly rate was 300. It was
Okay.
$1,200 for 4 sessions.
Okay. So right now, just to talk a little bit about packaging, especially from someone who was in product, how do
Yeah.
you package your coaching? I know you're not doing coaching as much now, but how were you doing it, or how are you doing it now?
So I was packaging it and I was doing very well. The last package I had was actually doing very well and it was very easy to sell, quote unquote easy to sell, but like it was a clear sale. And that was that I charged everybody $10,000
Hmm.
and they got 12 sessions which they could divide over the course of a year, like a 365-day year, not a calendar year,
Yeah.
to their preference. So some people would use it up weekly within a
Hmm.
quarter. Some
Yeah.
people could spread that out, and, it was an easy number. You could divide it into 2, and I could charge your company 5 grand to begin with and 5 grand later.
Yeah.
You could split it up into monthly payments. I didn't really care, but I it was a commitment of 10 grand, 12 sessions, and there were all these other benefits that you got beyond that. You got to email me as much as you wanted. You had my phone number. You could text me. You could call me. You could ask
Yeah.
me for templates. You could ask me to do a 360 for you as like part of it and like kind of use credits in an interesting way. Access to my network. Like you had to build it up as a thing, right? It was a product.
Yeah.
You were buying a
Yeah.
$10,000 product that
Yeah.
involved me, which was a service.
Yeah.
And so I productized the service as best I could. And that was what I sold. I
Yeah.
used to sell this number of months, that number of months, and it was too complicated for people. It was like,
Yeah.
"Whoa, which one is for me?" And it was like, "You know what? What's for you is that you get to choose when to do this, right? Everyone needs
Hmm.
12 sessions. That's the bottom line. And the following year, you could use those 12 sessions and only pay me 5 grand
Oh,
because like they were half-hour sessions.
okay.
Because if you've already spent a year with me with 1 hour sessions, you might need 12 more half-hour sessions over the course of your next year,
I
refresher, new
see.
challenges, 'cause you're growing in your position, etc. But because we already had so much foundation, we could do
Yeah.
half-hour sessions and it was less money. And yeah, so I had people doing that and it worked out really well.
Okay. Yeah.
And I
I
don't do that
love that.
anymore.
Okay. No, but I love that because you simplified the service, and like people look at like this long list of things or different options, and they're like, you need to create a matrix and Excel sheet to understand what the heck is going on, and then it gets really complicated. Because when it comes to pricing, it's always like 997 or like
Why did
you
I
know
just
what I
make a
mean?
10K 99?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think people are smarter than that. I will tell you though that there's a woman named Kim Ripberg who I've bought her services, and
Hmm.
she does a fantastic job with that in that it's not 9.99. It's literally her prices are like 873, 79.
Okay.
And like therefore you can't when there's a certain number that you don't round up in your
Hmm.
head, even though you should. Like when I said that to you, you didn't say, "Oh, that's like $900."
Hmm.
It was too much cognitive load for you to realize it's $27 less than $900. You
Yeah.
associated that with the 8. And so
Yeah.
she's fantastic at that. I don't actually know where she studied it or how she chooses her numbers, but
Yeah.
yes. And she talks a lot about the value that she's actually delivering. That really it's like $22,000 of value that you're getting for 972 or whatever. And so that was actually part of what I started doing. I would talk about the value because
Mhm.
if I was giving you and your team a session on the topics we would cover or could
Mhm.
cover, that would be a lot more money. And so
I
you
love
were
that.
getting personalized value.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the harder things for a lot of coaches, right? Because they're not necessarily coming from the product mindset or even like a sales mindset. So when they come to building a landing page or talking about their services, they talk about too often like I mean, I've made the same mistake, right? You talk about too much about like here are all the little features, but not enough
Yes.
not enough about the value. It's this amount of
And not
time
enough
for
about
this
the
amount of
problem
money.
you're solving
Right.
and the person you're solving it for. So like I
Hmm.
actually want to go to productleadercoach.com. I haven't been there in so long, but I know it exists because I went through countless iterations. But hi, I'm Tammy. It's nice to meet you. My only job is to help product leaders be awesome, right? I guide product leaders to leverage their established product skills to advance towards their goals. My clients earn the trust and confidence of their CEO, board, and peers, and it pays off with impact recognition, and often a promotion.
Mm.
And then I have a thing that says my best clients all have the same characteristics, which I wasn't able to do until I had been doing this for a while. And then I could see that trend. But my best clients were people who had true growth mindset and ambitious aspirations to be recognized for their badassery. That's actually on my website. Deep product experience, parentheses, generally in B2B SaaS, and strong management values, and great communication skills, but are often better at editing other people's work. And so, like, that was my way of saying, like, do you see yourself in this? Like, if you read this and you're like, yeah, that's me. Yeah. And there's like different things to talk about the problems you might be having and what I do as a coach because that's complicated. A lot of people, when they would have that intro call with me, had
Mhm.
never had a coach before. And they
Right.
didn't know what the coaching experience was going to be like. And I would have to explain to them that, like, I'm not your therapist. And also, I'm not an ICF coach. Like, ICF coaches are trained to do things in a very specific way, which is ask a lot of questions to unearth people's things. I'm a consultant by training, which means I give advice. I
Mm.
ask questions to integrate that into your brain process, but like, I'm going to give you advice. And I would say to people, and I say this all the time because there are still people who become my coaching clients. And I was talking to a few prospects earlier this week. I say, I'm going to give you advice, but I will never know as much about you, your life, your work, these other people as you do. I don't live there. I spend an hour with you every so often, right?
Right.
But if whatever it is that I say doesn't feel like it's going to be authentic to you, or you don't think it's going to be successful based on something you know, which I probably don't, tell me that. Tell me, and I will give you new advice. Like, I'm not married to being right. I'm not married to my advice. I'm married and to you being successful. Like, that's all I want is you being successful. Because when you're successful, it means that I'm doing my job well. And so that's the way I worked with all of my clients for years now. And it's great.
Your one liner for your website, it's so direct and it speaks directly to a very specific person. Most coach websites, it's so broad. And so, like, especially now because there's so many more coaches, which is fantastic, but
Yeah. Very
you
necessary
don't,
in the world.
yeah, but they don't necessarily differentiate themselves and say, I am the coach for this person. And I think there's a lot of fear in niching down in that way, right? Because it's like, I could be working with this
You
person or
didn't have
that
that
person,
fear.
right? Because and I was saying this to somebody earlier, which was, you know, if you're if you're charging somebody $10,000 a year, right, and you're trying to make $100,000, you need 10 clients. You need to talk to so to get 10 clients, you need to talk to maybe 10 people a month, and you need to have 100 people come to your website so that you can get that one client a month. And if you wanted to really accelerate, you got to figure out how to get 1,000 people to your website to do all of that. But like, that's the point is you don't need 100 clients. You just need 10, 20, whatever your number is, right? Ideally, it's not 20 or like 50 because that gets really hard to manage.
Yes, it does.
But yeah, but the point is that if you can be very specific about who you're trying to serve, and you
Yeah.
can still build your
There's
business.
Yeah, there's a coach named Jill Conserbeck, and when you ask her who she coaches, she says,
Mm.
"I coach women over 40 who are senior management and in like the corporate world or something like that,
Mhm.
but definitely women over 40."
Yeah.
Like, and like she's like, "This is who I like to coach." And I'm like, "That's fantastic." Right? Like,
Yeah.
and I now know when I go on her podcast, like who it is, what it is I should be talking about, and because who the audience is. When you serve everyone, you serve no one. A product for
Mhm.
everyone is a product for no one. This is one of those fundamental product things, which didn't make it into the book. I really should have put that in the book. A product for everyone
Second
is a
edi-
product for no one.
you need a second edition.
Second edition, yeah. In the updated digital only PDF version. Yeah, and you have to figure out what kind of coach you wanna be and who you wanna be a coach for and who you can best serve.
Mhm.
Because one of the things I used to offer, and I mentioned this a minute or two ago, is a job seeker package. Like there was a job seeker package at some point, and it was highly discounted and it was very structured. Like we would spend this time, like the first session, doing an assessment of your skills and where you could go. The second session was just dedicated to your resume and your LinkedIn, and the third one was dedicated towards interview skills. Very simple job seeker package. But I couldn't promise people that they would get a job. And I couldn't promise people that they would all of a sudden be better at interview, which is really where the rubber hits the road in getting a job, right? I could help them get more leads by improving their resume, but I couldn't be there for them in the interview. And so I stopped offering that. And instead, I started, when people would come to me for that, I have this email that has like resources I've written, articles from other places, a link to a free job search council grouping that they can be part of. And now actually a link to a technology called superinterviews.com, which like helps people with interactive AI interview skills, which is the sort of thing you would do with me, but you could only do it for 45 minutes. And
Yeah.
this you can just like keep playing with as much as you want. Such a cost effective option. And I'm like, here's your cost effective options. And if you
Yeah.
really want to still spend time with me for like final polish, book a half hour, book an hour. But I don't want to sell you a big package. This is going to be transformative when the job market is as horrible as it is.
I mean, and there's so many other factors that come into it because even when I'm looking at, so I've been talking to tons of coaches and I've been reaching out so that I can bring them on for interviews. And so what inevitably comes up is like on LinkedIn, there's a lot of people who see you running a business and they're like, I'm a marketer. I can help you. I can guarantee you, right? Which it's like,
I'm a marketer, I'm a PA, I'm a social media marketer, I'm a cold email person, I'm a website designer, all of these things. Yes, I can help you put your best foot forward.
one is like the skills to do it, but it's, you have to know so much about, like, there's no way to guarantee 100% like that you're going to bring them new business because there's all these other factors that come into it. And
Yeah, I've
anyway,
spent thousands, probably tens of thousands of dollars on different services like that over the past 4 years, and none of them were overly productive for me
mhm,
because of how niche my market is and how high touch the sale is because of the
mm,
vulnerability and things like that, for
yeah,
both coaching and for speaking.
yeah,
And so the thing that I'm doing right now is I'm hiring a sales assistant,
mhm,
same amount of money per month as a social media person or anything else, but their whole job is crafting personalized outreach to people that I believe are leads
yeah,
and following up with them because I suck at that. Like,
mhm,
that's what I suck at. I suck at the follow up because I have so many other things going on. And the people who I work with want a personalized touch. It's what I promote when I train people about influence. Like, one pitch silver bullet doesn't exist. You have to update and adapt your pitch to each individual. Like, this is literally the core of the map framework is understand your
mhm,
audience and change your message.
yeah,
But I wasn't doing that myself. And
mhm,
so that's now what I'm doing, and I hope it works out.
yeah,
But I believe that that is going to be more successful for me than anything that is like broad net stuff. And at the
mhm,
same point, the broad net stuff pays off in different ways, right?
yeah,
It gives you opportunities to travel because you might get invited to speak somewhere. It
yeah,
gives you, in my case, I get leads from ChatGPT
yeah. That's happening a lot now.
because like I have such a body of work out there in blog articles, in LinkedIn posts that like if you ask, I would like you to recommend a number of coaches that can help me as a product person in the director space become a VP or learn how to be a product executive, like, and then people ask follow-up questions and like it gives them me. And that's great. And now I don't offer them a $10,000 package. I say, "Hey, you can pay 250 for a half hour or 500 for an hour. Book it when you want. Email me when you want. Here are some links that can help you in your current thing."
Mhm,
And I feel better about it because I don't want to be following up on that $10,000 deal. I want to, if I'm getting $10,000, I want to impact at least 10 people, if not
mhm.
50 or 100, right? I want
Oh,
to do well by the companies that pay me $10,000 cuz yes, working with one person can impact a lot of things, but it is so much faster if you're using that $10,000 and I'm training a group of people to be better at this.
yeah. So let's talk about this because you've transitioned from doing a lot of mainly one-to-one coaching into doing more speaking and group coaching and training. So and we've been kind of skating around this. So let's just
Yeah.
talk about it. So what happened in your thinking that said, I want to have more impact. I want to have greater impact. You didn't become a coach to be a marketer. But if you want to build a sustainable business, you need a system that works for you while you're coaching. Coach Ops is designed to help you go from unpredictable referrals to a reliable marketing system without it feeling pushy or salesy. If you're ready to build something systematic, visit kyber5.com/coach ops.
I was at a conference. And it's a conference that I love. It's called Industry. It's in Cleveland. It was, I think, my third year there. And I wasn't actually on the main stage that year. I was in charge of the Q&A stage. I was the moderator of the Q&A stage, which is a super fun job, by the way. So being that person was super great. And I also got to hang out in the green room. And I met a person who used to be a Google engineer and gave a fantastic speech about AI. And his name is Dan Chuperkoff. And he was telling me in the back room about how he had decided a year or two ago that he just wanted to do public speaking and get paid for public speaking instead of being an engineer. Like, and we're talking senior engineer at Google. Like he was walking
Yeah.
away from a package, right? Because this is what he wanted to do. He wanted to help people. He wanted to tell his story. And I came back from that weekend in Cleveland because I did some soul searching and I said, when am I happiest? Like, I'm actually happiest on stage. I'm happiest delivering a message that I'm talking to a group of 500 people. And I don't think I'm going to touch all 500 people. I'm not Tony Robbins. I don't have some like special magical spell. But there is a large percentage of those people who will walk away with something new, a new perspective, a new skill, a new framework because of the energy I bring to a stage. And this is actually a lot of energy to bring to a coaching session, right? Like my energy is better utilized in a larger audience. Or a larger video audience. Like I love doing virtual trainings too. I am one of very few people who can train virtually and keep people engaged for an hour and a half.
I mean, I love your energy. It's great. It is
So why
fantastic.
not use that, right? Like
Yeah.
I thought I was having like trickle down in the nature that I would work with an executive and then they would be better for all their teams. And now I have more of a middle out approach
Mhm.
that if I can develop the emerging leaders within an organization, not only will they be more successful and the people they manage will be more successful because they will be better managers and better leaders, etc., but the executives who they report to will also be more successful
Yeah.
because they are not dragging them into the weeds as much
Right.
and everyone is happy. So middle out.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. I mean, I often see a lot of coaches who'll do the speaking engagements or the group coaching as a way to kind of get their way into an organization, right? That's kind of their foot in the door. And then they'll work up as people see them working and their perspective and the value that they bring. And then somebody in the audience or an executive will be like, that was so good. I want to work with you, right?
Yeah.
Um,
And that's a thing.
yeah.
Even in my current packages like that I was just putting together, I have
Yeah.
a page on influence without authority coaching. In the packages and speaking overview I put together recently, there's a page on the talks I give and workshops I give about influence. There's a page about the workshops I give and the talks I give, which are centered on leadership and leading people in a certain direction, strategic visioning, etc. And then there's a whole other page which says add-ons and packages. And the first add-on option is group coaching because I believe it reinforces what you've just learned in a workshop or in a keynote. That people have questions that need to be answered about how they can apply this in their job. And so I don't want people to think that, okay, I'm just going to give this nice speech and then everything is going to be great. It often needs reinforcement. And that could be one time a month later or a 30, 60, 90-day sort of thing because different things show up often within the first quarter and people need a little extra support. So I offer that because I have this as a background, because I can do it. And I also offer executive sessions and things like that. But like, that isn't my end game. Like, that isn't what I'm really into. I'm really into hire me for one team, hire me for your next team, hire me for your leadership offsite, hire me to be at your
Yeah.
customer conference so that I can teach all of them how to be better at influence. Because these are universal skills.
No, I love that because you have such clarity in what it is that you want to do and the impact that you want to create. And I find that most coaches, when I talk to them, even the ones who have been working for 10, 20, sometimes 10, 20 years, they don't really think about I'm just a coach. I'm just coaching. And they don't necessarily consider like what is the kind of business that I want to build for myself. Because I was talking with the one coach who they were in Germany, they moved to Australia, and they're getting older. And I was just like, what kind of business do you want to build in the next 5 years? Right? Because you could go any way. You could do more one to one. You have, because he has all the experience, right?
You could build an online course, you could like, and I have those things, but they have a very strategic purpose.
Yeah.
I have a book and it has a very strategic purpose. Like, why did I write a book? I wrote a book because there was a void in the world for books for product managers to read to their children about what it is we do. Because I found that void when I was a mom. And I validated this was a real thing and that this was a problem. And I wrote a book, but I'm not making any money on this book, like $0 on the book. My whole goal of the book is that I can say I'm an Amazon bestseller
Yeah.
because that badge of sorts on LinkedIn is worth a lot as a speaker. So
Right.
originally, this was going to be a free YouTube video, but it turns out you actually need a book to be an Amazon bestseller or have a book launch. So it's a real book. But then once all the books get sold, it's just going to be a YouTube video and a PDF you can download for free because that's not why I'm in this. Like, I didn't build it
Mhm.
to become a millionaire. Like, that wasn't the purpose of the book.
Right.
And similarly, when I think about my business, am I looking to have a lifestyle business? Yeah. I really just want a lifestyle business. I'm not looking to make millions upon millions of dollars and change, like, that's not it. I want to change other people's lives. In 2015, so we're talking a decade ago, I launched something called Just Not Sorry, which is a Chrome plugin that reads your email and it underlines words that are undermining your message. Grammarly was not as good at this back then.
Mhm.
Much better at it now. And it went viral and it was this whole big thing. And that was fun. But the most fun thing was 2 years later, I would be introduced to talk about something around product. And someone would say, and Tami created is the creator of Just Not Sorry. And I'm going to go with like 60% of the time, there was someone in the audience who would say, "Oh my God, that was you? You changed my life." That was their words, not me. They would say, "You changed my life." Because with word choice, with more confident communication, so many more dominoes fell. And that's the best feeling. Like, that right there is the best feeling when someone says, "I change your life." And it's not because I want to do that for one person. I want to do that for tens of thousands of people. I want someone 5 years from now to say, "Tammy, I was at this keynote that you gave once at a conference and it changed my life. It gave me this new perspective and I started implementing that and it was amazing." Sheryl Sandberg changed my life because she taught people who she worked with her philosophy on prioritization, and they taught me, which is every morning wake up and say, "What is the highest value thing I can do? Or what's the one thing I can do today that is highest value?" And it changes the way I work. And it changes the way I get stuck in the hamster wheel or when I take a break to hang out with my kids. Cause I'm like, did I do my one thing yet? Did
Mm.
I upload those marketing lists? Did I send out that newsletter? Did I post on this Slack group? Whatever that one highest impact thing is. And for that, there's lots of other things you need to know about where you're going, blah, blah, blah. But I was part of this speaker group called Impact 11, which unfortunately went defunct. But their mission was to help people like me get better at our craft so that we could spread our message and change the world. That's a powerful mission, but it's a strong belief that that's what people up on stage have the power to do if they get the training to do it, if they know how to do it well, if they know how to story tell well. And yeah, that's where I'm at. But that isn't for everyone.
And that's really important. You need to know what it is. I mean, again, people need to know what their purpose is, what their goals are, what is the life that they're trying to build, and then cut everything else out.
Yes. Oh, wait. So on that note, right, I have this online course on mastering executive presence because I made it thinking that, oh, I was going to be able to like put up Facebook ads and like make tens of thousands of dollars on it. And one of my coaches, like my speaking coach, just said to me, he's like, Tammy, don't do that. Like, don't distract yourself with that.
Mhm.
Offer it as a bonus, as a differentiator towards your clients who can hire you to give you a big speech. And then they also got X number of licenses of this course. And I was like, oh, that's so much better. And that's something that you only get if you work with me, right? There are tons of leadership speakers out there. Not all of them have an online course in executive presence that your audience can all get a free license to,
Right.
or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
thinking about and what you're doing with the different assets and strategically is important. My
Mhm.
brain is constantly firing, and I have such a different experience than most people. Like even most product leadership coaches have worked for one or two companies
Mhm.
with a big brand name, and that's how they became a coach. And they have experience like that. And that's great. But that's really limited experience. Like I've seen hundreds of companies. I've met thousands of leaders, and that's different. It's not better. It's just different.
There's a big perspective difference in that, right? When you've worked with, spoken to, and seen a wider range of the same thing, right?
Mhm.
You understand how or the different ways you can move, the different possibilities that are out there.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to this particular topic of how coaches can make money, like Melissa Perry makes money in a very particular way. She
Mm,
has an online course called Product Institute and she sells it as a corporate license and like it's its own, multi-million dollar business that
mm,
she runs. And she does these other things that help promote that, right? And she writes a book and she teaches at Harvard and she's like all of these things like but they're all like she didn't teach at Harvard to make money. Let me be clear. She taught at Harvard because she got to say, "I'm teaching at Harvard." That's awesome.
yeah.
You know, I didn't create a course in product management for Northwestern because the $50 an hour they were paying me was so amazing or whatever it was I was getting paid. I did it because I can say I built a course in product management for Northwestern Kellogg. Like I worked with Mohan Sanvi, who's like one of the top marketing product innovation professors. And I still get to work with him because he's a wonderful person. But like there's a benefit to that, which is different than the cash.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
so. A lot of coaches have a hard time with the marketing aspect, and so when I talk to them about marketing, I don't talk about it as marketing, but as visibility, where you need to create visibility for yourself because if people don't know you exist, they don't know to come to you for help to for you as a coach. And so, the book, working at teaching at Harvard or you know Northwestern, which
But
yeah,
not everyone can do that.
yes, but you can do other things. And
Yeah.
but they have to go out and seek those opportunities that fit them to do it. So the first episode that we did that I pushed out, which so she was in Melbourne and then so in Australia, and then she just caught a flight to Adelaide and she went out and called all of her contacts she knew in that city. It's like, hey, I'm gonna be in the city for a day. Would you like to grab coffee? And that's how she created visibility for herself with those people in that network.
I'm doing that in New York. Literally, I'm speaking at a conference on a Friday in New York, November 14th.
Yeah.
I'm going to be in New York the 12th and 13th. And I reached out to 20 people who are executives who could potentially hire me for training and just said, "Hey, I'm going to be in town. Do you want to have lunch or coffee?" And I'm going to be meeting, I think, with like 8 of them. But once they responded, I said, "Great, that's awesome. What I'm really looking for is a place where I can do a dry run of my speech on Friday. Would you be down to do a lunch and learn with your team? And then, like, we can catch up. Otherwise, everyone gets a book, like, very much like a generous offer." And so I'm doing that at a company on Wednesday because dry run helpful. But everyone I reached out to
Mhm.
now has again in their mind, and these are people who have known me for years, but don't
Yeah.
necessarily have me top of mind,
Yeah.
a reminder that Tammy, like even in the initial email, I'm coming to give a speech. Reminds them that's what I do. I
Yeah.
give speeches about influence
Yeah.
to groups of people, right? Like
Yeah.
planting that seed. Yeah. you gotta remind people, and it doesn't have to be broadcast, right?
Yeah.
That's 20 people. It's a personalized email. It's not marketing. It's visibility, as you said.
I mean, that's the visibility, that's the business development. You got to go out, and I think it's hard sometimes for people to be vulnerable in that way, where it's like, but it's not really even being that vulnerable. It's like, I'm going to be in the city. Let's meet up. And by the way, I'm going to be doing a speaking engagement. I'd love to do a dry run if you guys are cool with that.
Yeah. So my dad taught me a long time ago, when you're traveling internationally, do everything you want to do. Like, don't say to yourself, "Oh, bungee jumping's $300. I shouldn't do that. It's 300 bucks." Because that $300 is still so much cheaper than the flight to get there and the time to get there. So, maximize your time. Do what you can in that moment. You never know what'll happen because you may never get to come back, right? And so it's the same sort of thing of, if I'm already going to be in such place, why not, like, and I already have a hotel room and I already am flying, I'm already getting babysitter for my kids or whatever it is, like, why not maximize that?
I totally agree. And I mean, sometimes it's difficult because it's kind of like a blank check, and my wife is very excited, and the kids are very excited. But it's like, when do you have the opportunity and the money? You can always make more money, but that opportunity, that chance, it's like sometimes it's a once in a lifetime kind of thing. Yeah, and I think, yeah, coaches, as you're saying, like, if you're going somewhere, you got to take that opportunity. You got to take every chance you got that you can to create for yourself, for your business. I just Sometimes I feel like people are afraid still of some kind of
I'm afraid of
rejection.
people are afraid of rejection. I'm still afraid of, I'm literally hiring another person so that they can get rejected instead of me, right? It's ballsy. And but at the same point, like, I think there will be less rejection if that person has a better chance and more time to invest in researching, where is the person at right now, right? What did they recently post about? Like, giving them a sense of, I one of the people I interviewed said this yesterday. It's going to be part of my speeches now. Show me you know me. Show me you know me. And that takes effort. So I want to do that.
That's a
But
really
I'm afraid of rejection too.
well, I mean, yeah, I think we're all afraid of rejection, but at the same time, I feel like, I mean, it's kind of what you signed up for as part of, if you're building a business, it's what you signed up for. And so, but the other thing is, it's like, from their perspective, it's not because they don't like you. They don't really, either don't have the time, or they don't really know you, right? And
Yep.
so,
Or
or
you have
like,
someone else who's already fulfilling this need. So
yeah,
when I was a fundraiser, and I said that earlier for a reason, because it is part of, like, my experience and my learning. What you're taught as a fundraiser is that you're not trying to get someone to give you a donation. You're giving them an opportunity to give back to their community. You're providing them an opportunity to do that. When you're selling someone something, you're giving them the opportunity to get the benefit of your service. I had a client who I talk about a lot because she's amazing. But she was in a place in her, like, in her mindset, where she wasn't raising her hand for opportunities at work because she was afraid of stepping on other people's toes and upsetting other people. And I said to her, if you're part of those projects, will they be more successful? Will you come up with solutions other people did not? And she said, yeah. And I said, great. Then you're not stepping on their toes. You're helping the project, the initiative, the product, the company be more successful. Absolute 180 in everything she was doing. Unbelievable recognition at work. Promotion happened. She got stolen by another company and then stolen back, brought back with a customized role for her to just, like, ideate on things and be a problem solver for people. Because she started raising her hand and showing her value, which was already there.
I think so. I think it's a perspective thing when I've talked with coaches about, the marketing or sales, because everyone, like, when it comes to sales, everyone has this kind of picture of the used car salesman, and they don't want to be this used car salesman, right? When it comes to coaching, you're not selling a used car, right? You're not selling, like, trying to steal people's money. As you're saying, like, she brought value to the projects she was in. If you coach with somebody and you are working with them, there is going to be change for the
For
coaches who
them,
are
for
getting,
their community, for their company, for their team, for their family. And
Yeah.
if you did a good job in the positive direction.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, so you're not really selling to them. You're not trying to sell them some kind of product. You're selling them that change, that positive outcome. And instead of trying to sell them, invite them to becoming a better person. And that, I think, is where it makes it easier for coaches if they can adjust their mindset about that perspective.
Yeah. So what's interesting to me is that influence training
Hmm.
is also sales training. And I often summarize, like, I give sales training to non-sales people because we aren't taught sales. We aren't taught how to get someone to sign on the dotted line. We aren't taught how to motivate someone, how to activate them and have them thinking, yes, this is a good idea. But we need to be, because you're still selling an idea. You're pitching an idea, right? You're saying, I want you to give your energy to me, your time to me, and the thing that's important to me. And that's selling. It is. Like, I call one of my trainings Life's a Pitch, because it is. And so, like, selling isn't dirty. Selling is providing somebody who has a need the opportunity to buy something which will solve their problem, right? They can go to market. There's many options for how they can solve the problem. They can try to solve it on their own. You're simply saying, here is an option where I help you solve this problem. I can make it as easy as possible. I can lower the friction. I can make myself obviously awesome, as this sales coach, April Dunford, says, right? Like, how do you make yourself obviously awesome as a helpful thing to a group of people? But this gets back to having a niche. Like, part of what I think people feel weird about with sales is when you haven't defined your niche, someone comes to you and then they're like, well, I can sort of do that. And they're like wheeling and dealing as to how can I like twist myself into a pretzel to provide you what you need. But if you have the right people, like, this is part of being a product person, right? Like, problem solution fit, right? If there are people who have a problem and I'm the solution, I'm the right fit. And I say that on my sales calls, right? Like, I'm not the right coach for everybody.
Yeah.
I I'm a-okay if you say, "Tami, your energy, it's not a good match for me." That's fine. But there is a particular kind of person who I am the best investment they can make. There are groups of people who hire me and I am the best investment they can make. There are lots of other things that other companies with different problems can make investments in other people, right? I'm not going to tell them about AI. I'm not going to teach them about how to vibe code. I'm not going to teach them about how to get better dressed. I'm not going to teach them how to be a better customer service representative. There are other experts who do that. I am an expert in influence. And so I am one of your best bet options for that. So figure out where you're the best bet option.
I think we could just end right there, but I've got a couple more questions. And I wish we actually had this conversation like 3 weeks ago because my
Okay.
son ran for president or class president he's in 5th grade. But I was just thinking, oh, this would be great that your influence program for kids.
Oh, yeah.
I always think about all the stuff I'm learning, right? And
Yeah.
then just how do I apply it to my kids and teach them to
Yes.
learn how to communicate, collaborate, influence.
I was in the middle of a podcast and my daughter came home from school and all of a sudden started banging on my door. Banging. Mommy, I can't find my Legos. Mommy, I can't find my Legos. Mommy, I need my Legos. She's a 5-year-old and my door was locked, so she couldn't open it, but it was really disruptive. And so I opened the door and I said, buddy, I'm on a podcast. Like, I'm always on a phone call. I can't help you right now. I will help you when I'm done in around 20 minutes. That's forever. And I was like, still, that's what the deal is. Close the door, lock it. Right. And then she keeps banging. And eventually, I actually can't handle this and I go and get the Legos. But I come back to the podcast and I say to um, the host who's laughing about this whole situation, I said, I have to teach her about influence. Because had she knocked and said, Mommy, I know you want to get back to your podcast. If you could give me a minute to find my Legos, I will leave you alone. That's influence. And that's the difference. So I'm slowly teaching them.
Yeah, that reminds me because I was speaking with another coach and he was saying he had to convince one of his early clients for coaching and he regretted it because he convinced them instead of just working with the people who they talk to them about the value that they bring, and they're super excited. And because they're super excited to work with them, it's great.
I had one of those clients, like, in the call of the sales call, she was like, "Well, I just don't think coaching is gonna be that helpful for me." And I was like, "Okay, but, like, these are the things I could do for you and help you do." I always say, like, "If you're giving me a half hour of time, like, I'm gonna give you value." And so, like, I always did, like, a mini coaching session on a particular thing they were dealing with, and so I gave her advice about a specific thing, and she argued with me. Not like said, "Hey, I don't think that's gonna work." It was like, "No, no, no," like, and it was, like, about, like, managing her inbox, and I was like, "Huh, I actually don't want this person as a client." And so, I didn't, like, hard sell the proposal, like, I sent the proposal, and then I just, like, but she wanted to be my client in the end, and it was just bad because she didn't wanna believe.
Mm.
Years and years ago, I was at a, tech meetup, and there was a founder in LA, because I used to live in LA, who, his name is Jason. He founded a company around documents. But anyways, he was talking about how he had been trained in hypnosis. And after the training, he tried it out on some people and it didn't work. Like, didn't work. So he called back up the trainer, was like, dude, your training didn't work. I can't hypnotize anybody. This is BS. And the teacher said, I forgot to tell you the one most important thing. You have to believe you're the best hypnotist in the entire world. And now he can actually hypnotize people because hypnosis is actually more about influence than anything else. Like, it's a matter of like making that person, you know,
Yeah.
but it starts with you being confident in what it is you're selling.
Mhm. That is such a good point. Okay, before we wrap up, and
Yes.
I've had a fantastic time with you, and
Me
I'm kind
too.
of sad that our time is coming up. So here's a question for you. Looking back at everything that you've done, if you could do something, if you could do it over again, what's one thing that you would have changed?
The biggest thing I would have changed is the feeling I used to have that I wasn't good enough because I wasn't normal. So, based on my trajectory, I was supposed to at some point become a VP of product. That was the pinnacle, or a CPO eventually, because the title didn't exist when I started. And I wasn't a good match for that. And I wasn't a good match for director of product underneath because I kept doing this consulting work, right? I
Mm.
kept being in-house then consultant, in-house then consultant, in-house. And when I finally joined Melissa with this Insight Partners opportunity, I recognized that everything I had done was leading up to that. And that, like, my brain was different. I have a consultant's brain. I connect dots that other people don't see. I create this much faster understanding of the lay of the land than other people do. And that's okay, right? Like, I make a lot of assumptions, but like a consultant's brain is different than like somebody who wants to be working at a single company for 5 years. Like, I thought I was broken because I had never worked at a company for more than 2.5 years. And had I earlier recognized that the common path just wasn't the path for me, I would have been a lot happier. And so that's my biggest mistake, was that I was trying to be in someone else's shoes instead of enjoying mine.
That's hard. That's hard to
Yeah.
learn
But
because you,
now I enjoy being me. Like, I wear lots of red clothing. I wear sparkly shoes. I travel the world. Like, these are the things that make me happy. They don't make everybody happy. Find your own joy.
yeah. It's sad that that people feel broken when they don't fit the mold because I feel like it's part of it is like we create this idea of what is normal in the world as we see it, when in truth everybody has their differences and quirks and whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I think that everyone's different perspectives is what makes the world exciting, right? Like it's all the colors of the rainbow. It's not just black and white.
And uh, in college, I used to say this to friends of mine, like, if you're working really, really hard on the courses that are core in your major and you're still only getting a C, you're in the wrong major. Go to a place where your natural talents will shine. It will be better for everybody, right? Like, people who keep, and I'm not saying don't have grit and don't have perseverance, but like, at some point, if you're putting in all the energy and it isn't paying off, reevaluate.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
You have
Um,
to actually do the work though. You can't just be like, "Oh, I'm getting C's." Like you actually do, like in coaching, right? There are people who like if you do the work, you get the clients.
yeah. I think that's the part that coaches have a hard time with is the whole client acquisition part of it. Of what yeah, I was talking with a coach in New Zealand. He was just like, I know like there's lead magnets and there's nurture campaigns. I don't understand how to put all of this stuff together and put it into a system. And so it's just like, yeah, so it's just very
Right?
hard.
Hire someone else to do that,
Exactly.
you know? But
Yeah.
when you hire someone else, you need to already really understand your value prop and your
Mhm.
ICP,
Yeah,
or hire someone who's going to help you do that.
exactly.
But, like, all of it stems back to who is it that you're serving? How is it that you're serving them? Why are you the right person to do this?
Last question. And
Last question.
we've kind of already talked about it, but so what is next for your business?
So next for my business is hopefully on Monday, I will have someone starting as a sales assistant. Very excited about that. I am going to be investing a lot of time in onboarding them,
Mhm.
helping them understand my brand, my value, what I think is important in the world, why it is I did this, the kinds of things I talk about, influence, training, leadership, blah, 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 as well as how I want the approaches to be done. Because I want it to be as authentically as if I was giving it as possible. And so that's the big next thing. And they're going to be focusing on corporate training gigs
Mhm.
and association training opportunities. I'm probably going to go on like a tour of associations teaching their emerging leaders about influence because I don't know how familiar people are with associations, but there's an association for everything, a lighting association, a microphone, whatever, like wallpaper association,
Yeah.
wallpaper installers. And people join those and pay membership dues with the understanding that they will have opportunities to network and learn and advance their career, meaning that these associations have to provide trainings. And so they have to take the membership money and give it to coaches and corporate trainers. And so even if L&D budgets go away, associations will still have budgets to pay for training people. So there's going to be a lot of that in my life.
That's a great tip too for other coaches to start looking for associations that are looking for speakers.
But please don't become a speaker that doesn't charge the association money because that really kills me.
Yeah. You have
Like
to
if you're using the speech as a free opportunity to get future clients, that's not helpful towards the speaking community that charges for speaking. So please don't do that.
yeah, I agree. Like, and you should be delivering value. Like, it's an opportunity to speak. You should get paid for it. You're delivering value, and it's also an opportunity to create more visibility for yourself and potentially get more or new clients to come in and work with you.
And also that doesn't mean you shouldn't ever not speak for free. Like the dry runs are free. I know somebody who's like giving a speech to a whole bunch of like CTOs for free, like a CTO forum. Like there are reasons to do something at low or minimal payment, but please don't do that to the associations because then the rest of us will have no money.
Understood.
Yeah.
Um, Tammy, thank you so much for your time. I've really had a lot of fun with you, and yeah,
Yeah, it took us like 2 months to actually make it happen, but it happened and it was awesome and it was so
yeah,
fun.
yeah. I think we're good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I had so much fun. Thank you for having me.
Want to stop guessing and start building a marketing system that actually fills your calendar? Head to kyber5.com/coachops and let's get systematic. That's it for today's episode. I hope you grabbed something useful you can actually apply in your business. If you did, leave a comment or share it with a friend. And hit subscribe if you haven't already. I'll catch you next week.